Hi sweeties, how are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. If this is your first time of coming across this channel, sweetheart, kindly smash that subscribe button, turn on the notification so you are notified each time I upload, and please give this video a thumb up. I appreciate you all so much, and I am saying a very big shout out to every one of you for all the love and support you all give me here. I am truly grateful. Thank you all so much. So today we'll be talking something very important, and it's about this pastor who actually came out to say, he is getting loads of backlash. Loads of canceling because he said that 150 years ago or 200 years ago, that when, black people were enslaved, that they did not, he even said blacks. So he was asking, did black people ever go to Washington, D.C. to protest during that period or rally 200 years ago against slavery? Then he said no. He said, what did they do? He said that black people, a lot of people in plantations were kind of doing charity work, like trying to build churches, and they were taught how to read Bible and all that. That they humbled themselves and accepted their faith and accepted God, and God made slavery illegal through a white president, right? And he was emphasizing that black slaves did not protest during that time. And the fact that he even started his speech with blacks and went for that to make so many horrible statements about slavery, a lot of people did not find it funny. It is very insensitive. And the fact that he has been going around teaching people something like this even made it more horrible, because a lot of people already accepted this as something that is real and all that. Stay glued. I am just rolling this clip. We'll come back to talk about it. Let me know what you all think in the comment section. So straight up, here we go.
This is Pastor Mike Keller. I have often said that in the fight for liberation, if you continue to adopt the religion of your oppressor, you can never be truly liberated. Pastor Mike Keller is in charge of the Freedom and Truth Ministry at Central Baptist Church in Florida. Now, let's take a listen and tell me if you understand why I said what I said.
150 years ago, or 200 years ago, when the blacks were slaves, did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery? Did they? No. What did they do? Well, a lot of good people in the plantations would say, hey, it's wintertime. Let us help build a church for you, dear folks. And they loved them and taught them how to read so they can read the Bible. And here's what the blacks did about 150 years ago. They humbled themselves. They prayed. They sought God's face, and they turned from their wicked ways. And God made slavery illegal through several white presidents, right? It worked, didn't it? They didn't protest.
It's not just the dehumanization of black people by just referring to them as the blacks, because a lot of you all engage in that behavior, negating your own humanity, but is the alternative history of believing that we were paying for our sins, so therefore we started the transatlantic slave trade for you all to liberate us. Revisionist history, anyone? But it's not just Florida. It's the whole entirety of this religion. So, there is that. You all have the day you deserve.
D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery.
All right, I'm going to give some context. In case you are new here, I've had people ask me questions. So, this is Mike Keller, the person you just heard speak. He is the father of Anna Duggar. Yes, that Anna Duggar, the one who married Josh Duggar. Now, Mike Keller is a prison minister. That means he goes to the prisons in Florida to basically teach the word of God there. And in the video that you saw, he is preaching at his son-in-law, David Waller's church, Fair Park Baptist Church. And by the way, not only did David Waller write a letter to Judge Timothy Brooks asking for Josh Duggar's leniency, a lighter sentence for his case, Mike Keller did. That's right. Josh Duggar's father-in-law wanted Josh to be in prison for less time for downloading and possessing CSAM. The second I saw this video, I was viably upset. And if you saw Shiny Happy People, Mike Keller is a major part of IBLP.
Blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have a rally?
Do you want to really know why blacks didn't protest and go up to the Capitol back then? Because they were slaves. And guess what would have happened to those slaves? They would have gotten killed. That's the difference between black people from back then and black people today. It was against the law to know how to read. Like, what are you talking about?
Or 200 years ago when the blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery? Did they? No. What did they do? Well, a lot of good people in the plantations would say, hey, it's wintertime. Let us help build a church for you, dear folks. And they loved them and taught them how to read so they can read the Bible. And here's what the blacks did about 150 years ago. They humbled themselves. They prayed. They sought God's face and they turned from their wicked ways. And God made slavery illegal through several white presidents, right? It worked, didn't it? They didn't protest.
My God, today. Okay, so a few things. Do you think black folks really had the freedom to just roam about the nation's capital? Enslaved ones at that? Baby, there were things called walking papers where whether you were free or not, you had to have some form of documentation to say why you were not on a plantation. Here's what black folks did do. Black folks did run away. Black folks did fight back. In fact, there is no point in history of the enslavement of Africans where black folks did not fight back against their captors. From the shores of Africa to the plantations of the South. You just didn't learn about it, clearly. It's wild that you bring up the mention of reading the Bible when enslaved people weren't allowed to read. And if folks learned that you could read while you were enslaved, you had the threat of death, because you could read. As for the good folks on plantations, just like the way we think that human traffickers are bad people, enslavers are bad people. There were no good enslavers. As for the love that you think that folks had for their enslaved, what kind of love sells a baby from their mother's arms? What kind of love traffics little girls? What kind of love maims, tortures, and ultimately unalives people, and then dare calls itself love? Challenge these lies wherever you hear them. The act of owning someone is barbaric, and only barbarians enjoy that practice and would dare call it love.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C.?
The one thing we can always count on as Americans, especially if your ass happens to be in a marginalized community, is the goddamn audacity of some overfed white men. Their audacity knows no goddamn bounds. You couldn't fit the audacity of well-fed old white men in the goddamn Grand Canyon. All of it would not go in there. Who in the fuck is this motherfucker? Everybody's like, oh, well, he's a Duggar fan. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Look, overfed old white man. Are you ready to have this conversation? Because if not, shut the fuck up. Close your lips. Walk your ass off into the fucking sunset. Or, if you prepared to have this goddamn conversation, bitch, let's have it. Because everybody got something to say about Africa. As if that not fucking takes you motherfuckers off the hook. Oh, well, it was the Africans. How come they didn't process the Africans and the African? Hey, motherfucker, how do we get here? How do we get here? Sit your monk ass down. I am so You know what? I want that level of audacity. I do. I want that level of audacity just to see how it feels. You know how you go to showrooms just to sit in cars you can never fucking afford? Like, I have sat in a fucking Lamborghini Diablo. I've sat in one. Beautiful ass car. I will never be able to afford it. I want some of that. Let me walk around like a well-fed old white man for just a day. Let me feel it. Because the fact that these motherfuckers are always in the middle of some shit that they could shut the fuck up about, and they have the balls to say shit. Women's reproductive rights, black history, fucking immigration, whatever the fuck it is. Whatever the fuck it is, you know there's a well-fed old white man that has an opinion. His opinion is never asked for. Nobody ever said, yo, can we ask that well-fed white guy what he thinks? I just want some of that audacity. Just let me hold it. Like, I don't want the entire Infinity Gauntlet. Let me hold it for a few minutes. I don't want to wear that bitch forever. Just let me put it on for 15 minutes. Can I get just some of this audacity? Just a tiny bit. I know I have to, like, give up jank size. That's fine. Let me hold it for a day. Just one day, that level of fucking audacity.
Were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery?
You know, it's actually impressive to think that there are people in the world that lack the cognitive ability to wonder why black people didn't go to Washington 200 years ago to protest slavery.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery? Did they? No. What did they do?
So first of all, the blacks. The blacks. During the time of slavery, the form of protest you're looking for is insurrection, resistance, running away. And the punishment for said things against black people was lynching. But continue.
A lot of good people in the plantations
The plantations.
would say, hey, it's wintertime. Let us help build a church for you, dear folks. And they loved them and taught them how to read so they can read the Bible.
You mean to tell me you love people you enslaving? The people you taking the freedoms from, the people whose children you are selling, the families that you are ripping apart, the people that you are breeding as a form of profit? That's love. All in the name of reading and writing to interpret the Bible. One, scripture ain't no parts of this. Y'all bastardized the Bible by giving a totally different Bible. But also, this country made it illegal for black people to read and write. But continue.
And here's what the blacks did about 150 years ago.
What did the blacks do 150 years ago in 1873, which is post-emancipation?
Humbled themselves. They prayed. They sought God's face and they turned from their wicked ways. And God made slavery illegal through several white presidents, right?
No, numbnuts. The same white presidents who decided that they wanted to keep their slaves fought against the abolition of slavery. And God didn't end slavery. The white folks didn't end slavery because they loved black people. They were the owners of the black people. Some of y'all are stupid. And we are in 2023 in the age of information. We can literally look this information up and show you how stupid you really are. Please go play in traffic. Mike Keller.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C.?
First of fucking all, they couldn't go protest 200 years ago because what? They were enslaved. You dumb shit. Second, do you really believe any slave owners were building churches for their slaves? No. What they were doing is on Sunday, they were telling the slaves what was in the Bible because, oh, by the way, yeah, they couldn't read because it was illegal. So they would tell them why they were slaves because it's in the Bible. And so humble yourself and be a slave. That's what they were teaching them. Slaves were brutalized and unalived in the most horrific fashion for hundreds of years. And this man is trying to make it seem like, oh, they were at summer camp and, oh, the nice plantation people would, build them churches and, explain to them about the wonders of the Bible. I wouldn't have believed anybody at that big fucking age could be that goddamn stupid. This man has children. He has children. So he's been spewing that bullshit to children, perpetuating the generations of stupidity. No wonder they want homeschool curriculums. They don't have the intelligence to learn anything else. They just want to be, wrapped in their bubble of ignorance with the IBLP. If I hadn't seen and heard that with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed somebody could say that out of their mouths in all seriousness. This is why diversity and inclusivity are important. This is why critical race theory needs to be taught in school, because apparently the education that some of you are getting in at home is lacking, to say the least. That he can stand in front of a microphone and say that bullshit is horrifying. I love how white men have weaponized the Bible to use it for their own devious purposes. That's what's happening here. They're trying to continue it. And I'm glad that we have the internet so we can see just how dangerous, how ignorant, and how ridiculous they actually are. Good thing, too, because he might be talking to somebody else's children. Please stop, back up. And now I'm disgusted with the Duggars even more. Yeah.
Washington, D.C. and have a rally 200 years ago to protest against slavery.
This is an example of a white devil inside a church. Happy Tuesday.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have...
Okay, this is really not funny. Never mind.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have...
Content warning before you go and watch the rest of that clip. It is just pure and utter racism. That said, it is what I was taught in Christian school. In a Christian school in the North. It was also part of homeschool curriculum that I was also taught from. If it sounds wildly extreme to you, you are removed from what evangelical Christianity is teaching. There's a reason that they're marching into school board meetings, losing their minds at the mere suggestion that students be taught that racism still exists today. And it's because they don't even think racism existed in the past. They teach and believe that enslavers were mostly good, mostly kind. They teach that slavery was a net good, and not just for selfish economic reasons because it built the wealth of white people, but because they believe that without slavery, black people wouldn't have experienced Christianity, and enslaving a few bodies to save a few souls is worth it. It's horrendous, it's evil, it's twisted, and it's what they believe. If we don't recognize how insidious and prevalent this is, we will not win the fight.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have...
First of all, what this deflating helium balloon was saying was, did the blacks ever go to the Capitol and storm the Capitol because they weren't happy about being slaves? No, they didn't, Luigi. Anyways, there's a game I like to play where you watch Django Unchained and you replace the word slave or the N-word, because of the algorithm, I'll say it if I want, anyways, with the word dog. And it's not like a funny game where everybody laughs, but it's a game to show something, that if you replace the word slave with dog, it
actually has a lot of parallels to the fact that these slaves are fighting each other to kill each other. They don't like it. They're probably doing it so they don't die. Now, I'm not a professional on dog fighting, but I'm sure that the dogs do it for their owner, for their livelihood, or somebody got them all riled up at the other dog because, dogs aren't humans. There is a different process of thinking. But to all of this, I say, they're like, have they ever gone and stormed the Capitol? No, because if a bunch of dogs went to, let's just say, the Capitol, or a bunch of dogs went rabid and didn't like the way they were being treated and started, like, growling and biting and trying to protest in a way a dog can because it can't talk, we would shoot them. We all love dogs. We do. We love them. But if a group of dogs wanted to be, as we perceive, dangerous, we would shoot them. Easily. Case in point. Which is the same reason why a bunch of black people didn't go to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. in the 1800s to protest about how they don't like being slaves. Also, how would they get there? Like, you would have to leave the plantation, right? You would have to get up, leave, do something. I don't know. What's the other word? You'd have to, like, run away. You'd have to be a runaway dog. It's crazy. And then you'd have to go get the police to come and get you back. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. It's crazy. It's crazy. You're so old. I would think you had been there.
The blacks were slaves. Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and have...
Okay, first of all, you said the blacks, which means you don't consider us even the 3/5 of a human that you deemed us from the time we were slaves. Second of all, you said we didn't go to Washington and protest, which means you want us to be compliant and complacent with the injustice, the longer prison sentences, and the unalivings that you constantly do against us on a daily. Third, you said, oh yeah, when you built churches, we got better. We did not get better. We got brainwashed. So we're going to correct that because you put out a whole book. Your people put out a whole book on how to turn a Negro slave Christian. And whilst most are still practicing Christianity, a lot of us have gotten into spirituality.
Did they ever go to Washington, D.C. and...
Want to hear the stupidest fucking thing you've ever heard? Go have a look.
All right, this is all I got from the stitches. And if anybody is laughing at this, there is nothing laughable about this. There is nothing funny about this. And I said his red to the season, it shows. It's glowing all over. And I am watching this and I have like two sides to it. First of all, he said that blacks were slaves, that they did not ever go to protest. It means they accepted their fate. I mean, whatever that was going on with them, they accepted it in good faith. That is a lie from the pit of hell. Because I know from what I have read, they do not even have any right. If their rights were taken away, and somebody in his right senses is talking about going to protest. So, and at the same time, he was also saying that whatever black people are going through, right? They are not supposed to talk about it. They are not supposed to protest. They are supposed to swallow whatever they are going through and seek the face of God, right? So that whatever they are going through, God will change things for them. I also saw it from that angle. So it means you are not supposed to complain. You are not supposed to talk about anything that is going on, the injustice and all that. The fact that this is being taught in churches and people around him, his children, knew this. Man, there is need for, the ignorance is really oozing, because I don't see how somebody will come out to speak this. Excuse me. Whew. Man, really, I don't know. There is nothing funny. There is nothing great about this post. There is nothing good about this post. I just see a very shallow-minded person looking for a way to deceive other people. And the truth is that so many people already have this, like they have taught them this, and they have been walking around with all these lies, because for me, it's a lie. This is where I am going to draw the curtain. Thank you all so much for all the love and support. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.